Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Indian Nation Station pregame show here live on the Indian Nation Station, Piqua Channel 5. I'm AJ Ganger, welcoming you here to the pregame show with Bob Luby and Duane Bachman back here live from Alexander Stadium at Perk Field. Gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast team.
Good to be back. Big game tonight.
Bob, we were on the road last week. We got the week off. Did you get your naps in and everything?
I was at a wedding.
Oh, you were at a wedding.
I didn't get to nap too much, no.
Well, guys, tonight, obviously, we want to remind everybody that Piqua being on the road last week, we did not do that game. But this week's game against the Xenia Buccaneers will be replayed on the Indian Nation Station, Piqua Channel 5, Monday night at 5:30. The coaches show at 4:30, and the pregame show will be scheduled to run at 5. The game will also be available Monday evening on the Indian Nation Station's YouTube page, and will be shown on our live stream that has been streaming nonstop 24/7 for the past week. So we've got a big playlist playing there. It keeps looping back through. We've got the games. We've got some of the students' work on there. So, guys, what do you think about that? Hitting it big time now with this YouTube stream.
Moving right along. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I like what we're doing, AJ.
Well, a reminder here, we have some new sponsors for the Indian Nation Station. We're going to read some of them off here now. Gonzo Radio, America's Best Choice Windows and More, Miami Valley Steel, East of Chicago Pizza, Morris Heating and Cooling Comfort Systems, the Mulligan's Pub, Dick Lumpkins, Piqua Harley Davidson, Unity National Bank, the Miami Valley Center Mall right here in Piqua, Goin' Postal, SC Collectibles in the Miami Valley Center Mall, Beppo Uno, and Brown Lee Ray Realty. Guys, we'd like to thank those sponsors for sponsoring the Indian Nation Station throughout the fall sports season. And guys, we're hitting it big with the community here in Piqua.
I like it. I know almost every one of those sponsors. I know personally. They're great community people. They're great school people and great sports people.
Yeah, they want to support what's going on at Piqua, and that's a good example of that.
And you know what's awesome is that these people, they have came to us because they have Bachman and they have Luby back on the football broadcast team. That's what I was told this week by the guys going out helping us getting the sponsors, which is Tim Worth from Gonzo Radio, and we'd like to thank him for all the work, the fine work that he's been doing for the Indian Nation Station over the last couple weeks. Guys, let's get into it. The remaining schedule, we are in week number 5 here at Alexander Stadium. Tonight, Piqua playing Xenia. Then next week, it's the big Sydney game. It'll be broadcasted again here on the Indian Nation Station. It's homecoming also for the Piqua Indians. On October the 6th, they're at Greenville. They come back here for a Thursday night game on October the 12th against Butler. That game will be on the Indian Nation Station. Then on the 20th, we'll be at Tip City, followed by October the 27th at Troy for the 133rd meeting of the greatest rivalry in Ohio high school athletics. Guys, remaining schedules, what are you looking for right here?
Well, I'll take a peek at that because I think before it's over, we're going to talk a little bit more about tonight's game. I think there's something to be said for the night's game. Of course, next weekend, the Sydney game, all kinds of rumors flying around about the injury to their quarterback, Gordon. And we've heard lots of stories that he's going to be ready to go next Friday, but won't play tonight. We've heard rumors that he's done for the season and has decided not to play football again in his high school career since he's only a junior and concentrate on his basketball career. So those rumors have yet to be confirmed, but that's going to be a huge one. And we've got some other teams, I think, as well. A couple teams in there, 2-2. We've got some interesting games left before this one's over.
Bob, what about you?
Well, to echo Duane's comments, of course, Sydney's a big one. If Piqua has any chance at all of getting into the playoffs, they're going to have to beat, which I think will be an undefeated team next week. Sydney will come in here undefeated. They'll be 5-0, and again, the rest of the schedule, Greenville's 2-2, Butler's 1-3, Tip City I think is 2-2, and Troy's 2-2. So they're going to be playing each other, and they're going to knock each other off one way or another, and it's going to be difficult to pick up a lot of points.
Yeah.
So that Sydney game will be critical.
And, an interesting note about, saying all these 2-2 teams. Right now, it's Sydney and then Troy, Greenville, Piqua, all 2-2, in second place. There's really not a clear front runner in the GWalk North right now.
No. Well,
besides Sydney.
Other than Sydney, right.
But like you said, Sydney comes in here next week. Piqua needs to really knock off Sydney. They need to get a big win in a crossover game tonight against Xenia that we'll talk about more here in the coming moments here on the Indian Nation Station show. Guys, with scores around the league from week number 4, Centerville improved to 4-0, beating Springfield 24-12. Fairmont also going to 4-0, beating Springboro by just 2 points in a shootout, 40-38. Wayne improves to 3-1 with a win over Miamisburg, 56-28. Sydney in a closer game than the experts might have thought against an 0-4 Xenia team. Sydney would improve to 4-0, winning 55-48. Troy would bounce back and get a win against Fairborn, 38-6. Trotwood, a 56-10 winner over Tip City. Greenville beat Stebbins 41-13. Northmont beat Butler 48-13 on Thursday night. Beaver Creek improved to 4-0 in an overtime thriller against Lebanon on Thursday night, 41-35. And now to the Piqua game. Piqua obviously shutting out West Carrollton, 35-0 last week's. Guys, let's talk about this game last week, but before we do that, any scores up there that kind of caught you off guard?
Well, there's no scores that touch you off guard, except 2 of the scores that are going, I think, to pit Beaver Creek against Fairmont in this week's matchup. I believe that's a matchup, both of those 4-0, and that could be one of the big games in the Miami Valley. I think I've got that right. Other than that, nothing there surprises me. It appeared to me, and Bob said it earlier, I don't think after Piqua plays Sydney, anybody's going to beat the Yellow Jackets, so I think the Indians are going to have to do just that.
Of some of the games we talked about, the last week games, the one I like most and appreciate, and I said this last week, Fairmont. They're 4-0. They beat Springboro 40-38. And Fairmont has not been real competitive in that division for a long time.
Right.
And the fact that Dave Miller's turned that program around is, I think, just fantastic. And we talked about the history there. Of course, Dave's dad was a coach at Piqua.
Yep.
Dave was a coach at Covington. And, a lot of upper Miami Valley stuff there on the table. So to see a program come up from the ashes, so to speak, and be very competitive, to me, gives me a good feeling.
Here's another thought, AJ, about last week's opponent, West Carrollton. Over the years, West Carrollton has not been strong, I don't think, in any sports. I can't remember where they actually won a conference title.
Yep.
In fact, somebody told me this past week, and I don't know if it's true, in the last 2 years at West Carrollton, all of the varsity games, boys and girls, and all the sports, in 2 years, they have only won 11 varsity contests.
Wow.
Now that is, if it's true, that is, I don't know if it's telling. I guess the question I'd have is, how can a school that size, and they're pretty good size, it's not a small school, how can they be so bad for so long? Is it because they're close to the Air Force Base and they have so much turnover in kids that they're lacking that kind of stability? That one bothers me. I know some of the people at West Carrollton, and believe me, they are frustrated at their lack of success on the athletic field.
Well, I think one thing you have to think about is, how do you motivate students to come out for athletic teams and put in the time when they look at those records? They say, wow, I don't want to take a chance. I don't want to give up my time. I have a job. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm not going to give up half my summer and part of the fall to be involved. So I think you probably lose some people that could contribute to your program.
I think you're right, Bob.
100%, guys. And, another thing also is, if you look at the stats from last week's game, they only 34 total yards for West Carrollton. Piqua had 378 total yards, 4 first downs for West Carrollton, 15 yards through the air, just 19 yards total on the ground, and 3 for 9 on third downs. West Carrollton did hold the ball for a lot longer than Piqua did, surprisingly. But, guys, when you really look at this, on paper, this game was super lopsided, and even on the field it showed.
Well, I don't think there was a question of who, but how many. As you saw the opening kickoff, it was going to be lopsided, and exactly what it was. I have some empathy for the West Carrollton coaches and the players, but goodness gracious. Don't know where the end of the rainbow is over there at West Carrollton.
Bob, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, Piqua ran the ball for 174 yards, passed it for 204. I mean, West Carrollton, 34 total yards.
Yeah, and, you know, they only rushed for 19. Think about that in the game. 4 quarters, you can only rush for 19 yards.
Yeah.
You get 1 or 2 yards on a play, you feel like you should get more than 19 yards.
And even in today's NFL, when you look at that, you know, teams don't, the running game in the NFL is not really there, but at least teams are rushing for more than 19 yards a game.
Yes, every now and then we can do something right. Well, when you only have 19 yards, every now and then didn't happen too often. The only good thing, I think, in a game like this for Piqua is the fact you get to play a lot of your backup kids and give them some playing time in the field and let them learn a little bit in game action, because down the road you never know when somebody's going to get hurt, when you're going to have lose somebody for whatever reason, and it's nice to have a backup that's been in that role before.
I agree with you guys. You know, some stats, individual stats. Dillon was only 1 for 4 for West Carrollton, 15 yards passes, 6 rushes for 8 yards. Turner had 12 rushes for 34. Joseph with just the 1 catch for 15 yards. For Piqua, though, Austin Davis really shined last week. 11 of 16, 204 yards, 2 touchdown passes, 1 rush for 1 yard, which, I mean, he probably had to scramble out of the pocket for that 1 yard. Davon Brown, I should say, 12 rushes, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. Very great game for him on the ground. You look at Davon Brown, he was on the coach's show this week in the spotlight, senior spotlight. You look at a guy like him who's a transfer who comes in here, is trying to learn a new system, and, you know, he struggles a little bit in the first 3 or 4 weeks, but I think last week he really came into his own.
Oh, he's got the quick feet. I saw him break off. I think he was the guy against Franklin.
He was the guy who scored the touchdown against Franklin.
Called back, too.
He caught 3 or 4 called back.
Yeah. So, you know, I watched him run the football, boy, and he hits that hole. And if he gets past the first 7 on defense, he's going to be hard to catch.
Yeah.
And he's a good guy to share that running back with Ben Smeezing. So, yeah, Davon Brown, is that it?
Davon Brown.
Davon,
yep.
Okay. Yeah, he's a player, and it looks like the more time he gets on the field, the better he's going to be.
And, you know, Ben Smeezing, you just mentioned a moment ago, had 9 rushes for 42 yards, a touchdown. Hayden Shrub caught 4 passes, but those 4 passes were good for 79 yards and a TD. And Cale Mextroff, who we've seen catch a lot of balls just like Hayden does on a regular basis, he had 3 catches, 65 yards and a touchdown. So it seems like Piqua's passing offense and rushing offense really clicked last week for the first time since the Franklin game.
Yeah, you know, Hayden Shrub gets a lot of press because of his ability to go up and catch the football. He'll take it away from people. But I watched Cale Mextroff, and I'll tell you, he's a player.
Yeah, he is.
And he's right up there with Hayden in making plays. And we have 2 people that can be game breakers at those outside positions.
And it's Hayden Shrub and Cale Mextroff. And you also got to worry about the tight end, Derek Height, too.
Oh, yeah, he's kind of a sleeper in there. You can't, you know, disregard him, because he'll block. Then once they'll put him in a situation where he'll block and then release and go downfield, and he'll be wide open.
I agree with you guys. Again, we want to thank our sponsors here for the Indian Nation Station pregame show, Gonzo Radio, America's Best Choice Windows and More, Miami Valley Steel, East of Chicago Pizza, Morris Heating and Cooling Comfort Centers, Mulligan's Pub, Dick Lumpkin's Body Shop. If you got a bump, go see Lump. Piqua Harley Davidson, Unity National Bank, the Miami Valley Center Mall, Going Postal, SC Collectibles in the Miami Valley Center Mall, Beppo Uno, who's got really good pizza, guys, and Brownlee Way Realty.
Ate lunch there today at Beppo's.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys both had lunch? Why don't you bring me any pizza?
Bob had lunch today. I had dinner there last evening.
Oh, man.
So we got it covered. We got it covered for
Didn't
him.
bring me any extras, though, guys. Come on.
When you eat it all, there's nothing left.
That's true. Beppo, you can eat a whole pizza by yourself pretty easily.
Good
They've got
stuff.
good stuff. Week 5, again. Can you guys believe it? We are almost halfway through the 2017 football season. I mean, it seems like it's just flying by. And we get into this week's Week 5 GWalk games. At the top, Sydney's going to be taking on West Carrollton. Sydney, you know, again, trying to stay undefeated before they come in with a big game next weekend. Greenville will travel to Trotwood to take on an undefeated Trotwood team. Tip City travels to Fairborn. Troy will be at Miamisburg. Miamisburg's a tough team. Well, with that new stadium they have there this week, Troy could be in some trouble like they were last year, losing to them twice. Butler is at Stebbins. Stebbins, one of the only 0-4 teams left in the GWalk, along with Xenia. Centerville and Springboro. The big one where everyone's talking about.
That was last night.
Centerville and Springboro was last night. Centerville ended up winning that game up?
Yes.
You got a score?
Forget what it was. They won by 6 or 7, I think.
So it was a close game. Springboro seems to be playing a lot of close games, and that 1-4 record really doesn't reflect, how good this team is.
It was a competitive game.
The one everyone's talking about, Beaver Creek against Fairmont. Guys, last year I saw the Beaver Creek-Fairmont game when Fairmont was 0-4 at home taking on Beaver Creek, and guess what they did? They took Beaver Creek all the way, I think, into double overtime. Before we move on, I got to get your guys' thoughts on this huge, huge game tonight.
Well, I think Bob and I both have some personal thoughts on this one, AJ. First of all, he mentioned that Dave Miller, the Fairmont coach, has got some ties to Piqua, but so has the Beaver Creek coach. Nick Black is a graduate of Piqua High School. He played a lot of football for us. Great kid, great coach. It's kind of hard to pick one out there when you have such a close tie to both of the head coaches, just like we have.
Bob?
Well, Fairmont's been at the bottom of the pile a little longer than Beaver Creek. Beaver Creek's last few years, they've been pretty competitive. I remember, I think it was 3 years ago, we went to Beaver Creek and it was raining like crazy, and they had to stop the game because of lightning and everything. But Beaver Creek had a couple people were Division I prospects, and that was the beginning of the rise of their program.
Yeah.
So they've maintained since then a pretty respectable program. This is Fairmont's first year to be up there with the big boys, so to speak, and I think it'll be a heck of a football game.
That race in that GWalk region too is so tight. There's so many undefeated teams in there that it's just, this game is going to go a long way to deciding that division's champion.
Oh, of course. Yep, you're right.
Do you guys want to give me a score prediction on this? Who do you think's going to come out on top?
Well, I'm going to make a prediction. I'm going to predict Fairmont over Beaver Creek.
Bob?
Sentimentally, I'm going to go with Fairmont too, the Firebirds. I like the way things are going down there. And, for a coach to go in and start from ground zero and build a program up to where it is now this quickly, I think that you have to give that guy a lot of credit, and I'm going to go with the Firebirds.
And like a great coach always says on Saturday mornings, not so fast, my friends. I'm going Beaver Creek, and I'm going to say it's close, though. 6 points. 6 points will decide this game.
I can believe that.
All right, a couple more games to get through. Wayne is at Northmont, a good matchup between some 3-1 teams. We saw Northmont run over Tip City a couple weeks ago in that GWalk battle, and you got Springfield at 3-1 taking on a tough 2-2 Lebanon team on the road. Guys, we're tonight's game against Xenia, we're talking about an 0-4 team that invades here tonight. Here's what Coach Neese and Chip Hare had to say on the Coach's Show about Xenia being the best 0-4 team in the GWalk right now.
To week 5 and a very important game, and Xenia, and I'll go on the record and say they might be the best 0-4 team in the state of Ohio. You cannot look at records because they gave Sydney a fight, and they've played a good schedule, and they've been giving some other people fights.
Oh yeah, if you look through their schedule, I reminded our players. The first thing we had up on a board was Xenia's record, and then the next slide was who Xenia's record was against. And when you look at it, they've played 2 undefeated teams. They've played Division I Beaver Creek, who's 4-0 going into a big game against Fairmont this week. And it's our ex-football player, Nick Black, having a great year down there. So they played Beaver Creek. They've played Dayton Alder, which has only lost 1 game. They played undefeated Sydney, which is going through probably one of the best seasons they've ever had, and so forth and so on. So, they've had an outstanding schedule against them. So, they're obviously on our radar, and we have great respect for what they do. We have great respect for what their coach did. Trey Smitherman, when he was at Stebbins, did a great job turning that thing around, and now he's at Xenia and working the same type of magic.
And again, the Chips went on record during that coach's segment to basically say that he thinks that Xenia is the best 0-4 team here in the GWA Conference. Guys, do you agree with Chip and Coach on that?
I certainly do. It was early in the season. In fact, before our first game, where somebody who knows a little bit about more football than I do said, if there's a sleeper in the GWAC, keep your eye on Xenia. Well, let's look at it, AJ. First of all, they haven't won a game.
Yeah.
3 of their 4 losses have come to teams that will probably make the playoffs. So, and they scored 48 points last Friday against Sydney. Looking at the other side, they've got a new coach. He's putting in the triple option, and the triple option is very, very rare. In fact, you don't see it much at all. The last time I saw a AAA offense was a Navy, and that takes special personnel. It takes practice after practice after practice, and I'm guessing that the triple option could give Piqua trouble on the defensive side. And again, one thing about the triple option, that ball changes hands a lot of times, and I know up in the booth sometimes Bob and I have had a couple of those. Kind of hard to see who's going to end up with the ball and go across the line of scrimmage, and so I tend to think the triple option could be a problem. Unfortunately, the triple option also results in lots of fumbles. That could be a factor tonight as well. Don't underestimate Xenia. They are too good for that.
And one thing about the triple option too, we saw it last week against West Carrollton, so you didn't really have to change up a lot of your defensive schemes, coming into this game tonight. How do you think that affects Piqua's defense, Bob?
Well, it gives them a week head start a little bit, but personnel is the big difference, because I'm sure Xenia's personnel was much better than West Carrollton's. You can run the triple option with what you have to run it with what you have, but if you don't have quality, skilled people, it doesn't matter what kind of offense you run, you're not going to get very far. And I think that's what happened with West Carrollton. Xenia's people are better than West Carrollton's. They have a little more speed. They do things a little differently. I think Bill Neese will have this team prepared very well for Xenia. And when you play a triple option team, you almost have to have not assignment football necessarily. It used to be assignment football. Now, I talked a little bit with Bill today, and it's the blocking schemes that Xenia uses that will determine what the various people on our defense will do and how they'll react. Who's going to take the dive, who's going to take the pitch, and so on. So it causes you some problems. But I think one of the things, away from their offense, they play a 50 defense.
Yeah.
Which means they have a man lined up on your center. They'll have a man lined up across from Piqua's center. Most of the time this year, Piqua's played 40 defenses, where there's 4 men on the defensive line, but nobody typically lines up across from the center.
There's no nose guard.
Yeah. So what happens now, your center has to block somebody. As soon as he snaps that football, boom, he's got somebody hitting him. So that's a little adjustment on the center's part, too. He's got to snap and step and try to keep that defender out of our backfield and whatever the particular play might be to try to set up a hole, a running lane.
Right.
And again, I don't think we can forget the idea that they've got a young fellow by the name of Michi Harris. He's a Division I receiver, according to the Dayton Daily News. He did not play last Friday night, but he'll be ready to go tonight. So add one more piece to the offense of Xenia, could be a bit of a difference.
And guys, speaking of Xenia, tonight they take on the Piqua Indians here from Alexander Stadium. For Piqua, it's time to come back to their home field, a place where they haven't won a lot, though, here in the past 5 games. In fact, they're just 2-3 in the last 5 games here at Alexander Stadium. Their last home win came against Tip City last season on October the 21st. Tonight, they look to get back to home cooking against the Bucks. Guys, it's Bill Neese night here at Alexander Stadium. Before we go into some keys, why don't we talk about Bill Neese night? What does Bill Neese mean to you guys? 25 years of coaching is absolutely crazy for a game, for being a high school football coach.
Well, Bob Luby and I have been around Bill Neese for most of those 25 years. As superintendent, I can't take credit for hiring him as the head coach, but I will take credit for him hiring him as an assistant coach. And then in 1992, they made him the head coach after I had retired. But let's face it, over the years, Bill Neese has won a lot of games.
Yeah, he has.
He's beaten a lot of good teams. He's beaten some that aren't so good, but he's a winner, and he always has been. over the course of 25 years, he has been the dean of defensive gurus. I can remember, and I think Bob would back me up, there have been times over the years where somebody has come to Alexander Stadium with a running back who was absolutely sensational, and Bill Neese shut him down with little or no offensive experience. So Bill Neese, if it's a defensive scheme to come up with, that Bill Neese's bag. Bill Neese, all he ever does is win.
And you see that too up there, above the locker rooms, Division II state champions in 2006. Bob, give me your thoughts on Bill Neese.
Oh, he can coach. He's a good football coach, been around the block many times, played in a lot of very difficult games at a high level. Been to the state championship twice, as you just mentioned. And how many coaches around here have been to the state championship game twice? How many have been to the state championship game just one time? Not many.
No.
Not many. It's a tough road to travel to get there. And we were fortunate enough to be able to follow that team all the way through to the state championship final in 2006. And it was fun. You watched Bill Neese prepare. I talked to Bill Neese throughout the week. What are you going to do? How are you going to handle this? And Bill always has a very definite answer, a well thought out answer, how he's going to attack this particular team or how he's going to stop this particular team. So, and another thing, Bill's been fortunate to have some pretty good assistant coaches. You always forget those assistants. And they've contributed a lot over the years to the success of Piqua football.
And one of those assistants, obviously Coach Uhl, who's been here for a long time. You got Creechy too as well, that we talk to every week after the game.
Creechy came in on a covered wagon, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think he came from the East Coast somewhere in a covered wagon.
Wow. Well, AJ, you know something? This is a statement that Bob and I have made many, many times. Piqua might be outplayed. They'll never be out-coached.
No.
I believe that.
No, I agree with you guys 100%. All right, now we get back here to tonight's game. Game against 2-2 Piqua and 0-4 Xenia. Guys, I know you've got your keys to the game, who we have to watch out for or whatnot. Let's go over that before we get out of here.
Let Bob go over the keys to the game. He's studied it very, very carefully.
I think number one, Piqua has to stop the dive off the option.
Yep.
I think they have to make Xenia pitch the football. And if you see Xenia pitching the football a lot, you know that Piqua's achieved what they wanted to achieve. They are doing what they need to do because Sincere Wells is the running back, and he's a good one. 5'9", 190-pound junior. He runs the ball very well. He's got pretty good speed, and you got to stop him right at the line of scrimmage, make them pitch the football. Secondly, I think Piqua's passing game must be sharp tonight. I think Piqua must be able to throw the football to keep their defense off balance. And, if you pass the football well and you run it pretty well, you're a hard team to defense.
Yeah. Because
you can't sell out. Sometimes people say, let's crowd the line of scrimmage, take away their running game. Okay, go ahead and do it. I have a quarterback that throws the ball very well. We're going to make you wish you hadn't done that.
And you can mix in some play action passes, too, to try to cheat that defense even more forward and then throw it over the top.
Sure.
Well,
and
again, let's look at last Friday's night's offensive numbers for Xenia. They gained over 500 yards against Sydney. Now, I don't know whether that says that Sydney's defense is porous, but it might also tell me that these Xenia guys can score. Anybody that scores 48 points tonight, I would almost be willing to bet $1 is going to win this ball game.
And when you sit there and you said all the yards gains and maybe Sydney's defense was porous, it might have been that they didn't just prepare the way Piqua did for the triple option.
That was my point.
Yeah,
that was my next point.
If you didn't prepare that well for the triple option, we see it in college still. I mean, look at like Air Force and Army and Navy, they still run the triple option. Last week I watched Air Force nearly tear up a good defense in the first half just because, they weren't ready or prepared to play them.
If you don't prepare for the triple option, chances are it's going to come back to haunt you, and it isn't going to take very long for everybody to know that.
No.
The triple option is hard to defend, but in my judgment, Bill Neese has spent lots and lots of hours this week getting ready for the triple option tonight. Let's hope he can stop him.
Without knowing anything about the Sydney Xenia game other than what I read in the paper, My guess is Sydney did not do a very good job of stopping the dive.
Yep.
They must have been more concerned about the pitch, and the dive back was picking up a lot of yardage.
And when you think you say the dive and everything, they're just trying to pound the ball up the middle. I think Bill Neese is going to have his defense ready to stop that dive up the middle. In a triple option, you really want them to try to go outside. You want to take away the middle of their offense. You got, just like you said, you got to take away the dive. Let them pitch the ball, because if they have to pitch, guess what? That's your advantage to try to take over turnovers.
Sure, and the plan is good, but that being said, you got to have good people out on the perimeter
Who are disciplined.
that disciplined and can catch, stop the dive, because sometimes you have to involve a safety sliding over. You have to have a corner coming up, and sometimes you're one-on-one. It's a one-on-one situation, and you have to be able to tackle well, because you miss a tackle, somebody might be racing down the sideline.
I agree.
And again, AJ, let's not forget that as we looked at the numbers from the game last weekend, the Sydney Xenia game, there wasn't much said about the passing game. However, that might have something to do with the young fella who was hurt, Michi Harris. And if the passing game improves after you score 48 points without much of a passing game, I think that causes Bill Neese to think twice about covering this young fella, Michi Harris.
All right, guys, final thoughts here before we sign off and get you two up to the press box.
I look for a fairly competitive game. I can see Piqua pulling away in the second half, winning by 2 touchdowns.
I would agree with Bob. I think it's not going to be a 7-0 game. I can almost bet my life on that. I think it'll be in the 30s, 20s. It will not be a 50-48 game. I don't think. Too much defense on both sides. I would pick Piqua to win 21-14.
And I'm going to go above and beyond and say Piqua's going to blow Xenia out tonight. I really think they're prepared, and they're hungry. Like I said, 2-3 over the last 5 here at Alexander. This is your house. You have to protect your house. I think Piqua gets back on the winning way. They get above 500, and they start preparing for the game against Sydney next week.
I took a conservative approach. My approach was, I'm a belt and suspenders guy. I wear both. Always safe. Always safe.
All right, guys. Well, one last thing here before we get off the air. I'd like to thank our sponsors one more time here for the Indian Nation Station's pregame show, Gonzo Radio, where the radio listens to you. America's Best Choice Windows, America Proud, America Made. Miami Valley Steel, it's a U.S. Steel Service Center right here in Piqua, Ohio. East of Chicago, it's Piqua done right. It's pizza done right. Morris Heating and Cooling, they've been serving the surrounding communities and giving people smarter solutions for your home since '93. Mulligan's Pub, it's the only place to go in beautiful downtown Fort Piqua Plaza. Dick Lumpkins, if you've got a bump, go see Lump. Piqua Harley Davidson, your Unity National Bank, your hometown banking solution. The Miami Valley Center Mall, the center of your life. Go and Postal. Go there for all your holiday shopping needs in the Walmart Shopping Center. SC Collectibles inside the Miami Valley Center Mall. It's your one-stop shop for NFL and collegiate sports memorabilia, apparel, and collectibles. Beppo Uno, again, they've got the finest Italian pizza in town right here in Piqua on West Water Street. Also, one final thanks to Brownlee Way Realty right here on North Main Street in Piqua. Guys, can't wait to get you up to the booth. Don't forget the game's coming up next at 5:30 here on the Indian Nation Station. For Bob Luby and Duane Bachman, I'm AJ Ganger saying goodnight, ladies and gentlemen, and go Indians.